Welcome to Baby Loss Talk. I am your host, Janelle Adams, a fellow baby loss mom who created the show to help remove the stigma, shame, and loneliness of losing a pregnancy or infant by sharing real stories, advice, and resources. Welcome to episode 1, everyone. So, I've been thinking of ways of how to start this show, but I'm not really sure how, as the premise of this podcast means that you or someone you love has lost a baby. I don't want to say I'm happy you're here because you're going through something tough right now. I will say that I'm happy that you're open to the possibilities of what can happen when you choose to open your heart and choose to figure out how to live your best life within this new normal. Because I know it's tough. Losing a baby is so hard. But I created this podcast because I basically wish that something like this existed when I lost my daughter. And I'm sure that for those of you listening, you just want someone to understand what you're going through, and you want someone to acknowledge that this happened to you. As close as we may be to our friends and family, if they haven't experienced this, which is a blessing if they haven't, it's hard for people to really understand the emotions. They may not get it. They may say the wrong things to you when they're trying to comfort you, and I know that's tough. So yeah, I just basically wanted to create a platform where we can talk about this stuff openly and put faces to baby loss, because the fact of the matter is that 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage, and there's so many different types of loss. There's stillbirths, there are infant deaths, which can be caused by so many different things. It's like, where do you talk about this stuff? Of course there's therapy, and therapy is great, but I know for me, I just wish that I could talk to just another woman who has been there and figure out how she was coping, what she did. And I found so much inspiration in meeting women who had lost babies and seeing how they were thriving, because when I lost my daughter, I couldn't fathom how I was going to leave the hospital empty-handed and then jump back into society like a normal human being. That just didn't make any kind of sense to me. So when I would meet women who shared their stories with me after learning about what I'd been through, it made me feel like, you know what? Even though I don't feel it right now, one day I'm going to be okay. And so that's basically why I created this show. Many of you are listening, and everyone can be in a different place in their journey to healing, but no matter where you are, the main thing is that you want to know that one day you're gonna feel okay. My plans for this show is to share lots of advice with you after what I've gone through and blogging about it for almost 6 years now, and officially become a grief coach for baby loss moms. I've decided to use my pain to fuel my purpose of helping other people. Also wanted to give other women the platform to share their stories, because that's so important in the healing journey, is again, just knowing you're going to be okay. And the only way you really know that is by hearing stories of other women and putting faces to loss, because there's such a stigma behind losing a baby. There's so much suffering and silence, and we shouldn't have to go through that. The infant mortality rate, even here in the US alone, is so high. You are not the only one going through this. And I don't say that in a way to minimize your pain. I say that because I want you to understand that you're not alone, and that this didn't happen to you because you're a bad person. It didn't happen to you because karma is out to get you. I know that's something that I struggled with. I would literally, in the midst of my depression, I would sit for hours and I would try to figure out what I did in my past that warranted me losing my baby like this. It's just one of those really effed up things that happens. What I've learned along this journey is that while I can't go back in time and choose what happened to me, I can't fix it, I can't take it away, I can choose how I move forward. And for me, moving forward means helping other people who are suffering the way that I suffered. Because I mean, it's excruciating. So I will be having guests on the show, just different women who are open to sharing their stories of loss, how they got through their grief, or how they're still getting through it. Because, I mean, you never really, you don't get over it. You just learn how to deal with it every day. And I just want this to be a platform of inspiration for anyone who is going through this, anyone who doesn't feel like people in their personal lives understand, people who felt ashamed, women who felt less than. I want you to know that you're not alone in your grief, and I want you to know that you have an entire sisterhood behind you, and I want to introduce you to a lot of these women. Now that I've shared what baby loss is and why I've decided to create the show, what I plan on doing as another way to get to know me before we jump into future episodes and get in the thick of this show, Baby Loss Talk, I wanted to go ahead and share my story with you. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is insert a clip here from a previous blog post that I recorded. In this clip, I'm sharing why I became a grief coach, how I became a grief coach, and my story of loss. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for you guys. This is titled, I Am a Grief Coach, a lesson in the failure of trying to outrun my purpose. On Saturday, July 2nd, 2011, my life changed in a way that I could have never imagined. I was well into my second trimester, 2 days shy of my 6th month of my first pregnancy, and I wasn't feeling so great. I'd been in and out of the hospital since the night before, out of concern for the baby I was carrying, a little girl whose gender we had confirmed just the week before. Despite my pain, my concerns, and my cries for help, I was told over and over by the doctors and the nurses that nothing indicated that the baby was in danger. During my last visit, I was told that I had a bladder infection and given a prescription to fill. This was also the day I was supposed to start working on my baby shower with my sister, but I was in so much pain and busy going back and forth to the hospital that we never got around to doing that. After the last time I was sent home, I laid down in my sister's bed, tossing and turning, hoping for some kind of pain relief. I couldn't hold down the soup that she gave me, and I felt the urge to go to the bathroom. The next thing I knew, there was water everywhere. My water broke. My husband says he heard me scream, "Oh my God," which prompted him to come and get me. As he tried to get me to the living room, I felt my body starting to push the baby out. Before I can even get to the couch, I just started ripping my pants off, and before I knew it, I delivered my daughter into my husband's arms as I sat on my sister's couch. In the background, I could hear my sister on the phone with 911, yet I was very calm. There was this sense of calmness that just came over me. The pain was over, and I was holding my beautiful little girl in my arms. She had a head full of hair, and my husband and I always joke about the fact that she looks like she got her eyebrows professionally done before she was born. Her eyes didn't open, but she was wiggling her fingers and her toes. She was beautiful, she was perfect, and we hurried up and we wrapped her in a blanket to keep her warm as the operator instructed. She was okay. I snapped back to reality when the front door popped open with emergency personnel. They quickly cut the umbilical cord and they handed Jolie to my husband and got me in a stretcher to put me in the ambulance. I do remember everyone on my sister's street being outside trying to figure out what was happening and just, being in shock when they saw me coming out on the stretcher and they saw my husband with, this little tiny baby in his arms. And that ride in the ambulance lasted no more than a minute or two, but I was so calm. I think it's because my brain just didn't know how to process everything that was happening. It felt like a movie, to be honest. And the whole time I just kept thinking, this is going to be a hell of a story that I'm going to be able to tell her when she gets older. But I don't know. I was calm. My husband was crying and holding the baby, and he had the oxygen mask over her face. But I don't know. I was just super calm. The next few hours were a blur. I remember a nurse telling me that the baby looked good and everything was going to be okay. And I believed that. I felt like everything was going to be fine. My faith has always been strong. I've typically always been a positive person. So I felt like, we had a dramatic beginning, but I felt like everything was going to be okay. But because she was so premature, in my mind, I was then preparing to be a NICU mom. And, whatever challenges would come up, I was ready for. And I had my entire support system at the hospital with me, my dad, my sister, my brother-in-law, all my best friends. And everything seemed okay. We were all super positive until the doctor came in and asked if they could be alone with the parents. My heart sank. I don't remember the conversation in full detail, but I do remember asking if she would make it through the night, and they told me no. At some point, we did go to see her, and I just felt like I wanted to die, just seeing her little body hooked up to all these machines. And a few hours later, she passed away. The next few months were very dark, and I shared a lot of my feelings on my blog, because that was where I'd been expressing myself for all of my adulthood. So when that happened, that was also where I shared what I was going through, because I didn't know how else to deal with my feelings besides writing. And in sharing my story, one by one, my readers shared in my comments and in my inbox their own loss stories. Many of them said that my blog was a blessing to them because I was able to articulate a lot of the same feelings that they were having. They could relate to me, and they didn't feel alone anymore. And even if they were fortunate enough to not have experienced baby loss, a lot of my readers would refer me to their loved ones who were struggling through baby loss. As I started to progress, women wanted advice on how to cope and how to make it through simple things that are hard for a baby loss mom, such as returning to work, socializing, just things that came second nature before. All of a sudden they were really hard to do because now you're struggling with grief. And I answered every single email because I didn't want anyone to suffer. I felt their pain, and I didn't want them to go through that alone, even if I had, never met them, which 99.999% of them I didn't know before. But just knowing that they experienced the loss of a baby, I felt connected to them, and I wanted to help. Eventually, I felt like my blog, which was once a happy place filled with smiling photos of me and my family and my day-to-day, it just became depressing. So I decided to stop sharing my baby loss journey. I didn't want to be known as the blogger whose baby died. Yet, over the last 5 years, there has always been a constant flow of baby loss moms finding me, pouring their hearts out to me, asking me for advice, and using my old blog posts as resources of inspiration. Over the years, there has always been a tug on my heart to stop hiding and being ashamed of my story. I would share things here and there, usually on social media, every once in a while on my blog, but I I would always feel like deleting it once I wrote it. Go bigger, the voice would tell me. I tried to do it in a way that made me comfortable. So I launched Jolie Bloom, an eco-luxury brand for expectant and pregnant moms, a body care brand. I launched that on Jolie's 3rd birthday. In my mind, I could create a legacy for my daughter. I could provide a solution for expectant moms, all while spreading awareness on topics such as preterm labor. It's not enough. Do more, this voice would tell me. Around the 6th month at my last job, my spirit just didn't feel settled. I knew I was meant to do something more fulfilling and purpose-driven, but I didn't know what I should be doing. I spent my lunch break in my car, crying and praying, asking God for answers. As clear as day, I heard a voice tell me, be a life coach. Me, sitting in a car crying, and I should be helping someone else get their life together? It didn't make sense. But because the voice was so loud as you listening to me right now, as clear as how you can hear me right now, I decided to go for it. And because it's me, I decided to go for it in a big way. I spent thousands of dollars on a business coach to help me put this vision together. But along the way, I got lost. I tried to do my own thing because I didn't see how or why I needed to be a life coach. So I tried blog coaching, I tried business coaching, I tried self-care coaching, you name it, I tried it, and it didn't work. I became angry. I sacrificed, I was working hard, and nothing. I would pray and ask God why He was leading me down this dead-end road, and ideas would pop up into my head that was always directed towards helping baby loss moms, but I would ignore it. And instead, I would try to use the knowledge that I'd learned to provide other kinds of assistance to mothers, such as helping them launch their businesses or helping them follow their dreams. My sister would always hound me about it. This is your calling. You need to be helping moms who are going through baby loss. You need to, this is your thing. This is your calling. She would tell me that almost every day of 2016. But it was so uncomfortable. Still, on Instagram and on Facebook and in my email, I was privately helping women sort through their grief after losing their babies. I started getting more ideas of how I can help these women. I started getting ideas on products I could create that I wish I had, that I knew would have helped me, that I know could be a game changer for these women as well. I decided I was going to go for it, and that's how I would help these women. I'd create products. Go deeper, this voice would tell me again and again and again. And I drown it out. I had this. I'm in control, not this voice. But the voice wouldn't stop. And although I was excited about my ideas, I was wrapping up the year with low confidence, and I didn't want to bring that into the new year. I sought advice. I was advised by 2 people. One I sought out, and one who showed up organically in a way that I know was ordained. Both of them were able to pinpoint what was really in my heart and the legacy that I really wanted to leave behind. I wanted to fully devote myself to supporting baby loss moms through their grief. I just lacked the confidence to go for it in a bigger way that would allow me to help more women. And I needed the clarity on all the ideas that I'd been ignoring for all these years. I didn't make a vision board this year or a long list of goals broken down by the quarter, by the month, etc. I just had this feeling that if I fully stepped into my purpose, finally, this purpose that I've been trying to outrun, and help as many women as I can, everything would be okay. When the clock struck midnight and 2017 officially began, I was in bed watching Netflix with my 8-week-old fast asleep on my chest, and I can hear my older son in the living room with his dad and his cousins. And all of a sudden, I felt myself getting emotional and wiping tears from my eyes. I felt this shift. And then I felt calm. And I heard a voice that said, "You can do this. Trust yourself." And once I surrendered, things started to transform for me. And although I now understand that I have a responsibility to really step out there and help the women in my community in a bigger way, I also now feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. Jolie Bloom and helping women here and there have allowed me to test the water with my toes. But in 2017, I'm diving in headfirst. Purpose isn't always pretty. Grief coaching chose me. Maybe the title of grief coach will change in the future for me, but I do know in this moment that guiding moms who have experienced baby loss through their grief is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm gladly stepping into this role because if there's anything I know, it is the pain of creating a life and experiencing it end before it truly starts. I know what it's like to plan birthday parties that will never happen. I know what it's like to imagine holidays with your child only for it not to happen. I know what it's like to be pregnant and give birth, but walking out of the hospital empty-handed. I know what it's like to feel your heart breaking in pieces as you carefully select the perfect urn for your child's ashes. I know what it's like waking up and feeling like opening your eyes every morning is more painful than just staying asleep forever. I know what it's like to not feel like you can fully support your partner in their grief because you can barely keep it together yourself. I know what it's like to feel less of a woman or embarrassed because you couldn't bring a child to term. I know what it's like to feel like you're making progress only to be bedridden by grief the following day. I know what it's like to feel like you're alone in this, although you have so many people rooting for you. I know what it's like to be fearful every pregnancy after your loss because you know how wrong things can go. I know what it's like to feel like a bad mom because you're struggling with grief while still trying to be present with your living children. I am one of the many faces of baby loss, and I will own that finally if it means that I can help to bring relief to many women who feel like they're suffering inside their own bodies. I'm here to serve whoever needs me and help to alleviate suffering. I also would like to just say thank you to everyone who has kept me encouraged over the years, and to everyone who has trusted me to be the person to help them, even if you don't know me personally. I thank you for trusting me to help you, because that further affirms that this is what I'm meant to do. And it makes me know that all of this didn't happen in vain, and that this is for a higher purpose, which is to help other people. I thank you for that. Thank you for listening. And thank you for your support, and I look forward to supporting you in your own journeys. All right, so there you have it. That is my story, and just listening to that is making me emotional all over again. That's why I'm here. My intentions are pure with this podcast. I just want to help to create a platform so that women who have lost babies can have a voice, can put faces to loss, and just uplift one another and be a source of inspiration to one another. So that is it for this episode. I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know what I plan to do with this podcast. I would love to invite you to join my support group on Facebook. It's called the BABYLOSS Lounge. You can search for me there. You can follow me on Instagram at BABYLOSS Talk. You can also follow my personal Instagram, and that's at Janelle Adams, JHEANELLADAMS. And that's it. I hope I'll be here every week providing you with advice, resources, inspiration, and I just want you to know that you're going to be okay. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, you can always leave a comment on my blog, or you can always shoot me an email, info@janelle.com. And that's it for episode 1, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to be a source of inspiration and help you through this time. Thank you so much for listening to BABYLOSS Talk.